It was an offseason that we will all remember. And in the final season of the Pac-12 as we know it, comes season 3 of the It Factory. It will be full of players that are on preseason watch lists, will be on future NFL draft lists. As always, we will take the helmet off of the top players on the West Coast and tap into who they are and why they stand out. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome back to the It Factory. Welcome back, or welcome to the It Factory. I'm your host, Yogi Roth, and it has been a beautiful season, and here we are in championship week. You going to Vegas? I hope you're going to Vegas because it's going to be absolutely an incredible environment. It'll be elating. It'll be probably deflating. There'll be every emotion in the final Pac-12 champ game as we know it. But I had to bring in somebody that's become family to me over the course of my time at the Pac-12 Networks, 12 years. Pretty much comes to an end this coming weekend. But it's with somebody that has taught me a lot about football, specificity in football, coaching. That stuff's no problem. We have a blast on the air together. But it's really been the stuff off the air that maybe all of you don't get to see. But maybe we'll touch upon some of that. So I'm going to bring in my good friend, Nigel Burton, analyst at the Pac-12 Networks, former head coach at Portland State, has coached all over this league, including, of course, Oregon State, and had a stellar career at the University of Washington. But he started his career at a different school we're going to talk about in a little bit as well. Nigel, welcome to the show.
Yogi, my man. Hey, I you know what? The best part is we've learned from each other. You've taught me just as much, and I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on, man. I'm fired up, man. I'm juiced. What do we got?
Yeah, we got a lot. And I want this to be wide open, and you always are that, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to start with a place that I probably didn't think about starting at 6 months ago if you were on this show, but now I want you to look back. You know, you spent 12 years at this network. You spent your lifetime around this league, right? How many times have we been at the Rose Bowl? You talk about how you'd wake up on New Year's Day watching this game in Northern California. I'd watch it in Northeastern Pennsylvania, and here we would meet, on the field oftentimes doing a pre and post game show, which, by the way, congrats. Won an Emmy for last year's Rose Bowl pregame show. But to that point, Nige, like you look back on this league, I'm kind of curious what comes to somebody who's played, coached, and broadcast in this illustrious conference that's 108 years old.
Man, I mean, at this moment, I've always been a be where your feet are type of guy. I can't say always, but that's what I'm trying to be. And I've really spent this whole year trying to do what you were advising fans to do, man. It's just enjoy it and not get teary-eyed and reflect too much because, I wouldn't be able to keep it together. And so now that we're towards the end, I look back on it and it's just an amazing era. It's 108 years, all the teams, all the coaches, all the fans. I think when it's all said and done, people look back on the Pac-12, and I think the word that I think will stick out more than anything else is it was innovative. I think when you look at whether you're talking about women's sports coming to the forefront, so much of that started in the Pac-12. When you think of, the different types of offenses we see in football, so much of that started in the Pac-12. Defenses, started in the Pac-12. You just look at so many different things. And, that's really, it embodied what the West Coast is, and still is, innovation, Microsoft, Google, everything, all that stuff is here. And we are cutting edge. And I think that's going to be the lasting imprint of what, the Pac-12 conference, the Conference of Champions was to college athletics.
Yeah. What is it going to be like for you when you look back through the lens of a player? Like you talk to your teammates at UW coming off this incredible season here that isn't done yet. But what do you think it'll be knowing that, that innovation, it's carved up differently now because everybody's going to different leagues?
Honestly, I think when I talk to the guys I played with, I mean, we're all sad to see the end of the conference, but it doesn't change what our experience was. It doesn't change our love for the program. It doesn't change, any of those things. Obviously it's a different story at Oregon State, and living here in the state of Oregon and being so close to the program. I mean, Jonathan was a GA when I was there. Langi Suinoa, he coached for me at Portland State. Kafense I coached against. There's just so many guys on that staff I know really well. Jay Cookus, go down the list. It's a different animal for them. They're still trying to figure out what their future is. And I think it's a lot harder for them. I think for UW guys, we just reminisce about our days, and we still will always see ourselves as Pac-10, Pac-12 guys, regardless of what conference they're ever in. And we're just, dude, I know we want to touch on kind of some of that history. I still walk into that stadium, Yogi, and I don't know how it worked out. I don't know how, it doesn't make sense to me. And I did it. It doesn't make sense to me how I played there, the guys I played with, who were great players, but even better people. I don't get it, but I'm blessed, man. That's all I can come up with. And it doesn't matter what trophy they're playing for, what teams they're playing against. It's always going to be the same, man. Dogs till we die.
There it is. Dogs till we die. With that said, I think anybody who knows you as a personality on air, knows you as a coach, or knows you as the player at Washington. But there's so much more that led up to what was the catalytic moment, which you making plays, right? We all know the pass you knocked down in that game against the Bees back in the day. Our producer TJ is trying to dig up that footage. Hopefully we have that in SD somewhere. But to your point, how did when you look back on it, you're like, how did I get from here in Sacktown, Sacramento, California, to there, which was Husky Stadium?
Dude, what's funny is I see this show that you have all the time, and 5-star quarterbacks and Leinart and all these guys who come on the show, and those dudes are big time recruits and 5-star guys, and it's those guys are the cream of the crop. I'm the story of the other 80% of guys who play in the league and play football. When I was a judge in high school in Sacramento, and I played in a good league, and it was good football, Central Valley football. We match up with anybody. We don't care. Take your LA, come to Northern California and get smashed. We don't care.
Let's go.
Yeah, we'll knock your teeth out, And I was thinking about this, man. I was the 2-time conference player of the year in a conference that, Mike Flanagan, who played at UCLA, played for the Green Bay Packers. Mike Rohn played at UCLA, went on to play in the league. Our conference put out guys. Now, Mike Flanagan and Mike Rohn were not the 2-time player of the year. I was getting recruited by UCLA, which was my dream school. That's who I rooted for, man. All that fight on stuff. We went like this. It was, I had the magnet. I had the garbage can. AJ Kristoff called me religiously every Thursday. Was the DB coach there. I had my trip set up. I'll never forget this, Yogi. December 3rd, 1993. That was going to be my trip. And I was going to commit, play for Terry Donahue. Life was going to be just how I drew it up. And I was at school, and I got called into the football office, and a guy named Bill Rees, the recruiting coordinator from UCLA, came to see me. We talked for a second. He left. And the week before I was supposed to take my trip, AJ called me, same as always. He's like, Nige, Coach Rees came to see you, and he thinks you're too small to play in the Pac-12. So we're pulling your trip. You're not taking a trip. That's it. And Yogi, man, I cried, bro. I've cried that hard one other time in my life. I was devastated. And I went from, I'm going to play in the Pac-12, my dream school, stay in California. I had nowhere to go. I was so new to the recruiting process. I didn't know what to say to people. So I was like, I'm going to UCLA. Don't even bother calling me. I'm going to UCLA. So fast forward a couple of weeks, I'm sitting in my class. I get called to the office, and a guy named Scott Kreiner knew my counselor at University of the Pacific, and they offered me to take a trip. I took a trip, just drove down the street to Stockton, which was a 45-minute drive from my house. And they offered me a gray shirt. So I would have to not go to school or not go full-time to school the next fall, sit around, and then wait because they didn't have any scholarships left. So I went from a UCLA commit to a gray shirt at the University of the Pacific, which at the time was in the Big West, playing Nevada and New Mexico State and some things. And it was all I had. So I took it, and it was a good school. It's funny, man. I was thinking about this so much, man, because I knew we were going to talk. And just the story of like, I'm talking to my son about this stuff now, like you have to believe in you. Like you can't, if somebody, like you can't have anybody believe in you more than you believe in you. And I remember showing up at Pacific and going through my first fall camp, having been removed. I hadn't suited up in a year. And I was like fourth string safety. And I was just like, dude, like I'm not accepting this. Like, and if there's any advice I have for young players, man, is just talk to your coaches. So Kurt Beathard was my DB coach, whose dad was Bobby Beathard, right? Like Hall of Fame. Well, I still have a relationship with Bobby, Hall of Fame general manager for the Redskins and built Super Bowl champs. So I would like just ask Kurt, like, what do I got to do to get on the field, man? And I listened. And I remember I made the travel squad. I didn't play in the first 2 games much at all. I weighed 152 pounds, which is why I didn't get recruited. I was little. Everybody was saying, you're just too little. You're too little. And I'm playing my first game, University. It was really our third game. We're playing against the University of Nebraska. We walk in the stadium, and they had beaten the team before, New Mexico State. New Mexico, or somebody had played them before. They lost 77-0 in that game, Yogi. 77-0. We get in the game. My boy Ed Atlas gets hurt, like bad. The ambulance comes on the field. They got to put him in a halo. The D coordinator looks at me, Yogi, and is like, Nige, you're in. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, all right, cool. So I get in. First play.
Triple option.
Yeah, no, first play, they're going to the left. I'll never forget this. First play, they're going to the left. Corner of my eye, I see like a red jersey flashing. I'm like, oh, it's a reverse. About to make this play. And I start running, and that big red N in the middle of the field? Next thing you know, I'm looking at that thing like vertical. Somebody smoked me, yo. Somebody smoked me, right? And I just remember thinking, like, I got up, and I was just like, nah, man, I ain't gonna go out like this. And I ended up that game at 152 pounds. I had 13 tackles, a fumble cause. I caused Amon Green's first fumble, and I picked Brooks Bollinger, who passed away in a plane crash. And that was the first time I remember, like, like, all right, man, like I can do this. I can do this, And I was thinking about what I was going to talk to you about and messages I had for anybody who watches the show. When you tell somebody your dreams, if they're not telling you that you're crazy or they don't laugh at you, then your dreams ain't big enough.
So when you get offered to go to UW, what's that like for you, right? Like UCLA was your dream school, as you referenced. They were in the Pac-10 at the time, along with Washington. And then here comes this school that has always had success.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that? Like, was it an instant, oh yeah, let's go, I'll walk there? Or were you trying to see what else was out there? Where did it net out?
Dude, so it was a straight free for all at UOP, because like it was the first portal, right? Before there was a portal.
Exactly. And just to give context, like basically they say football's done at the school Nigel Burton is talking about, University of Pacific in Northern California. So all the players are like, oh, like we're automatically in the portal. Like you didn't have to opt in. Like you were just in. Okay, yeah. Cool. Keep going. Yeah.
And this is back when you had to sit and wait, right? So Yogi, I haven't even told you this stuff. So here's what, dude, it was straight Wild West, right? Because coaches started showing up and players were trying to get film, and a coach, like there were stories of coaches coming in saying, I want these dudes, stealing the video so that other coaches couldn't get the game film because they wanted to get certain guys. And so like I got my hands on like 2 or 3 game films, made copies, sent them out. And again, the same schools were like, no. And I'm like, but bro, I got film against Nebraska. We played, our first 4 games were Arizona, Nebraska, Oregon State, who we beat, and Oregon. And I had film against those guys, and I was still being told no. And so I got invited to come down to Stanford, and UW had been calling me, and they were like, hey, we're gonna offer you, but I'd already been through this, man. I'd already been through the, like, yeah, we got you, we want you. And I was like, nah, man, I've been screwed on this before. So I go out to Stanford, I sit in with the DB coach who will remain nameless. I'm sitting in the room for 10 minutes. Oh boy will not, he doesn't even look at me. He's like writing cards for their bowl practice, right? And finally he looks up and he has like readers on. And he leans his readers down, he looks at me and he goes, why don't you come to practice and tell me if you think you can play with my boys?
Ooh.
It's back to like doing cards. And I'm like, add them to the list. Like, just add them to the list of the people who said you can't. So I drove home because Stanford was drivable. So I drive home. I walk in the door. Scott Linehan was the guy recruiting me for UW, who went on to the NFL. And he calls me. He's like, how did your Stanford trip go? And I was like, not great. I said, is this like for real? Like, is it for real? Because I've already been through this, man. I can't take this. And he's like, no, man, we got you. We're sending the offer paper. Like, we're sending the scholarship papers now. I was like, all right, I'm in. And when the hell do we play Stanford? And so, I just kind of thought to myself, like, I can get this done. And I just have to be able to, as much as it was about proving people wrong, I wanted to prove 3 people right. I wanted to prove Jim Lambert right. I wanted to prove Ron Milas right, and Scott Linehan. Those are 3 guys who said, like, we think you can do this. And I just wanted to prove them right. And, and so, again, there was just something that I just was like, I refuse to have people tell me that I can't accomplish something. And, fast forward, I end up starting every year. I end up being a captain. And it was muddy. It's always muddy. Like, it's never, there's just these moments that you have to take advantage of. And this idea that, you walk in the door and everything was great. I'm trying to explain that to my son now, man. Like, you got to be able to bet on yourself, whether you're a walk-on, whether you're a scholarship guy. They're always going to try to replace you. They're always going to try to get better. And you just have to have the internal confidence that, like, you're willing to put in the work. And again, if your dream's not, people ain't laughing at you, you're doing something wrong.
That's a great story. I've always been told, like, if it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough.
Yeah.
I want to hit you with what I call the final 5, my final 5 questions, because you've told us this beautiful story about getting to Washington, and you let off with what Washington how it has impacted you and your teammates. You have this unique duality because you're an analyst, you're a dramatically respected and experienced coach, but you referenced your son, Jace, a couple times. You have 2 beautiful kids, Ella and Jace. But he's a recruitable student athlete now. I'm curious how you'd answer the question, like, what is the best advice you would give a recruit right now if they're trying to figure out and navigate their future like you did, like your son is currently doing?
Yeah. He's going through it, man. And it's hard. It's so much different now because of the portal. I think it really comes down to 2 things. One, you can never compare yourself and your situation to anybody else. Like, you can't get wrapped up in, that guy over there has got these offers. Why not me? That guy's got this. Why not me? Like, you can't worry about those things, because in the end, it doesn't matter if he has 30 offers. You can only take 1. Yeah. So all you need is the one person who says, I believe in you. That's it. That's all you need, is that one.
That's beautiful.
And I think there's that. And then I think, I used to tell guys, even when I was coaching, we would go against Nebraska a lot in recruiting. I don't know why. Nebraska was hitting LA a lot when I was at Oregon State. And I would tell them, like, hey, man, I've been there. Nebraska is dope, like, on game day. Sick. Okay. Hey, how many home games do they get? And they'd be like, I don't know, 6. I go, all right, I'm gonna give you 7. Because they'll probably, like, figure out a way to get 7 home games. How many days of the year are there? There's 365. What are you gonna do for the other 358 days? Right?
Yeah.
So I would tell guys, like, if you're going through the process, football is great and I love it. It's been my life and it's been good to my family, but football can be taken from us, right? Whether it's injury, coaching change, whatever. Go to the place that when you wake up, like, without football, you'll be happy. Like, where's the place you'll grow? Where's the place that is going to challenge you? Where's the place where you're going to feel loved outside of what you can do on the field. And if you find that place, go there in a hurry and don't even question it, because this game is fleeting and it's quick. And even if you do play, even if you end up being the star, even if you end up being the captain, even if you end up, in the end, all that's going to matter to you is the relationships, man. All the people are going to care about is how you treated them, and did you give everything you had, and are you there for them? And, you know, my son right now, he's going through it, and, you know, we've talked about different places, and Kalen DeBoer has been fantastic. And I just told him, I said, look, I saw the video you had with ZTF, and that tells me that that's a man who cares about the young men that he's developing, and that I don't have teammates at Washington, I have brothers, and those brothers will look out for you. And one day you'll have brothers wherever you go, and they're brothers because of what you've done together and what you sacrificed with them. And in the end, that's all you can ask for, man. That's it. So that's my advice, man. Go where you'll be happy outside of football, and yeah, and don't worry about anybody else's story, man. Don't worry about anybody else, what they're doing. Just do you.
That just gave me the chills, and that'll be the soundbite that we clip out of this thing to kick out to every recruit in America and really every parent. Last question, Nigel, in 90 seconds or so, because I know you could talk about this question for about 90 minutes or so.
I'm sorry, yo. You know, you my guy.
Oh no. This we could have gone forever. But I want you to reflect on your time at the Pac-12 Network. You were in coaching, you're out of coaching, and I can remember the first day I met you. I'm curious now, as you know, the lights turn down fundamentally on football season for the most part. What do you think about when you reflect back on the time at the networks for yourself?
Bro, you're not having one of them ESPN make me cry moments, man. Like, we're not doing that, bro. What was it? Roy Firestone. We're not doing that. You know, I was talking to somebody and I said, you know, I remember reading an article. I think John Woolner wrote it, and he said, you know, when I watch the network, it looks like these people genuinely like each other, and he was wrong. Those people, we love each other. And I think it's because too, like, you know, we weren't Fox, we're not ESPN, there's not these crazy budgets. Like, we had to like sometimes make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what, you know, and we stayed in a hotel one time where the lights went out, and like, you know, like we didn't have power, and, you know, we've had power get yanked in the middle of shows, and we had to make McDonald's runs for each other, and that produces a bond. And I look back at all the people that we worked with, whether it's Odalie and Stanko and Justin and Callball and Mike, you, Ash, you know, Chad and Ronnie and Seaway, and, you know, you just go down the list of all these people, Bump and Shane and Max, and these are not coworkers, they're family. And I feel like I'm losing family. And that's going to be the hardest part of all this stuff. You know, I'll still go to games. I'm still going to be able to get sideline passes if I need them. I don't, you know, but not being able to sit next to coach every weekend and talk about how we're stealing money because somebody's paying us to just hang out with our family and our friends and watch football and talk about it. Same stuff we'd be doing every damn weekend anyway.
Every damn weekend.
You know, and so I know I went over, man, but I love you guys more than I can put into words, man. And I think everybody feels that way. And that's going to be the thing when I look back on my time at the network is it's the closest thing I had to being in the locker room that I've ever had since I left, even more than when I was coaching, even more. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Nigel. I think you'd agree that when you're a fan of team sport and football being the ultimate team game, when you're done playing and you don't put the helmet on per se anymore, one of your main goals is to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And that has been the 12 years at the Pac-12 Network. It has been every interaction we've had with you, on, off the field, so many moments. And I know that it'll change. I know that our relationship won't stop. And I'm glad that we at least recorded like a 30-minute moment in time that we'll always be able to have. So Nigel Burton, thank you for going deep on your path and celebrating where you played and the school that you love and everything that you've been a part of and we've been a part of together at the Pac-12 Networks, man. I love you, bro. Stay safe.
Appreciate the time, Yogi. You're the best, man. And
peace. There it is. Nigel Burton, one of the top humans I've ever been around. Pretty simple and pretty point blank. He's made me a much better person, father, husband, all the things that you'd imagine. And our friendship is not ending. It'll take a turn, but I look forward to wherever our paths cross again. Nigel, I'm sure we'll be laughing and we'll get him on another show because that's just what's going to happen with Nigel Burton. Thanks for your support on this show. Enjoy championship game weekend. If you're in Vegas, give me a shout out. If you're on your way to Vegas, like give this show a little review, a little rating, share it with a friend, share it with a dog, share it with somebody that may have gone to UOP. That school still exists. With that said, as always, appreciate the support. Much love. Peace.